You are listening to Just a Cup on Believe. And if you like the conversation, make sure you subscribe, comment, share, and help us continue to grow. This is a conversation with the world's greatest athletes and the individuals that help get them to that place. And we are excited to have Miss Elmore, who is, we're going to get into some nuts and bolts of, her transition into the marathon and really talking about being a mom and being an elite level athlete. I have, my respect and my encouragement is beyond belief right now. We talk about you going into the marathon and running a marathon, and how challenging is that? You have, at this point in time, you have 2 kids, and it's that's a full-time job in itself, being a mom, especially with young kids. We're not talking about kids that are 20 or 18 or something like that. We're talking about little ones, and I don't have any kids, but all my siblings do, and the amount of stress and about of just all 24 hours a day, just there, because you're helping young people grow. How do you manage being an Olympic athlete and being a mom?
Well, first of all, my priority is always being a mom. Like, that's once you have kids, that has to be the most important thing. And thankfully, one can have goals in other aspects of their lives besides just trying to raise good kids. And I think it's good for kids to see their parents with goals outside of just the children. So I take it seriously. I want to show them what it's like to work hard and to go after big goals and to not give up. And now that they're getting older, they are really starting to buy into it. They know what I do. They were at my workout this morning just briefly because I started early and my husband had to drop them off on his way to work, and then I had to get them to school. And it definitely takes some balancing and some logistics, but my boys are turning 6 and 10 this year, which is unbelievable. I can't believe how quickly they grow up, but it's just so much easier than like 4 years ago when we were talking about like a 2 and 6 year old. I couldn't have them on the field playing while I was finishing a cool down because my 2-year-old would be like gone. He was reckless. But yeah, I think my kids in the end make me a better athlete.
Do they understand how good you are?
Well,
Probably
funny
not.
enough, my older son he's pretty funny. And I told him a couple months ago that I got named to the Olympic team for the marathon. He said, Mom, they couldn't find anyone faster, hey?
That's awesome.
And I was like, well, Charlie, like, it's kind of a big deal to make the Olympics, And he goes, oh, Mom, it's your 3rd time. It's not that big a deal.
That's such a kid.
Yeah.
You can't script that stuff. That's
no.
That's awesome.
And then he's like, do you have any snacks? Like, okay, so this moment's over. But now that his friends know what I'm doing, and I did a school assembly yesterday, and he was so proud that I was there, and the school's making such a big deal about it to the kids. He's starting to get on board now, and plus he gets to go to Paris in Europe for the summer. So
I was just going to ask, does he get an opportunity to go there? Because that would, kids like to travel a little bit.
Yeah, totally. It's their first time to Europe, and they're in French immersion here. So we're going to France, so they get a chance to practice in French. And, they've seen, of course, the Eiffel Tower, and I need to probably do a little bit more of, educating them about what's cool about Paris. But then we're going on a trip around Europe for 2 weeks afterwards. We're going to Switzerland and Austria. So I've involved the kids in, like, oh, look at this cool, playground in the Swiss Alps that we get to go check out. And we would not be doing this trip if it weren't for me going to the Olympics. So they're pretty lucky.
They are very lucky. And I can imagine the pictures and the thoughts that they're going to have, down the road. I've seen pictures of myself on the sidelines with my father when he was a coach, and just those things. And I look back at him, I'm like, man, I was little. And then I'm thinking, like, that's kind of cool that I had that experience to see, those individuals back when I was a kid and been around that. It definitely helped me out as a coach for sure.
Yeah, well, you're still in it, right? So it
Absolutely.
probably planted an early seed, and
It did.
that's cool.
It definitely did. So let's talk sponsorships, because I think that's a fascinating topic that most random fans don't really understand. The whole, how does a track athlete get paid? How does a track athlete how do they function? But you have a sponsorship with Saucony, which is pretty awesome. Great company, great running shoes. How did that come about? First off.
Well, actually, it kind of was initiated by me at the very beginning, because it was the time when super shoes were really starting to hit the market, and there were only a few companies producing these super shoes, and there was a lot of question around, like, am I giving up opportunities by running in other brands, versus Nike already had their super shoe out. They were kind of the market lead on that, and then Adidas following. And I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted one to be with a brand whose values I really connected with, and Saucony was kind of forefront in that respect. Like, they're really community focused. They support a lot of road races, a lot of local runners. They have some good brand values that were important to me. And they were not going to dive into all the things around sustainability and ethics and that sort of thing, but that was important. And then also I just wanted a company that I felt like I could make a difference to by being involved with them, and that they wanted athlete involvement. So there's opportunity within Saucony for me to really connect with the developers of the shoes in the office. I was there a few weeks ago. They're phenomenal. But at the same time, it's like, well, what's the cost? What am I giving up if I go into a less established super shoe than what everyone is wearing? And so before I was sponsored in 2020, I went to the lab at UBC in the Okanagan and tested a number of different shoes and did an economy test, so we could tell which shoes I was, had the best results in. And this was literally the last day before the lab was shut down for COVID. Like, we were all, walking around like like in hazmat suits practically. And when I got the results, I was thrilled to see that not only was Saucony kind of my leading preference from a brand value marketing perspective, but actually I tested the best in those shoes. And I had the best running economy, and running economy is directly related to marathon performance.
Sure. There's no question about that, because you're not running for 2 minutes or 4 minutes. It's a little bit longer.
I've still never done a VO2 max test, but I think at this point it doesn't really matter.
Well, you're probably correct on that one. You're probably correct. So I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to say, but I mean, Saucony's doing some pretty special things that are coming out soon with you involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was talking to a school yesterday, I brought in a bunch of samples of shoes, and I can't even believe since 2021, when I ran in Tokyo, the difference in the shoe technology in the last 3 years. My shoes look completely different now. And those, of course, were the shoes I tested in 3 years ago. But the research that's gone into developing shoes is just incredible. It has to do with the foam responsiveness is a huge part of it. There's, of course, everyone knows about the carbon, but it's a special kind of foam that's really responsive and gives you a lot of spring, let's say. And then just also like the geometry of the shoe. So creating a really aerodynamic shoe, and a lightweight shoe. So Saucony has really helped me hone in on what shoe is the best shoe for me and what shoe I'm going to run the fastest in. And that's been really exciting to be a part of that process. And yes, they'll be putting a shoe on the shelves of some stores pretty shortly in the next few weeks, which will enable me to be able to compete in them in Paris. So other people can wear the what I think might be the world's fastest shoe as well in their upcoming marathons.
That now, being a mom, being in all the Olympics, that's a pretty cool thing to have a shoe that you're going to get to debut. That's, I don't know, I get kind of goosebumps thinking about that, because I mean, it's on the cutting edge of stuff. I mean, that kind of adds to, the allure, I think, even more
Yeah,
awesome.
and I mean that's what I love about Saucony is that I get to go to the lab and wear these shoes and test them and talk to the brains behind what they're doing, and they take this feedback really seriously from their athletes, and then they tinker with it, and then they send me another pair of shoes to get feedback on. And I get to try on a lot of shoes too that are like, okay, this came straight from the factory and we can't
Right.
post pictures of it because it's still under development, but here, give this a try and what do you think? And that's, yeah, super cool for me.
Is that something you ever thought about, that you'd be involved in as an athlete, being involved in like helping out with development or being around kind of like cutting edge, apparatus? I mean, shoes are everything for an athlete and a runner. I mean, do you ever think you were going to be involved in those kind of parts of it?
I mean, it's really what the best case scenario. It's what I would have
Sure.
dreamed I could be involved in. And so again, like when I was thinking of best case scenario, what shoe can I wear and what company can I represent? Like that was important to me and continues to be. And I
Mm.
really feel fortunate to be able to kind of be on the inside that way and to represent a company that I really truly believe in their products.
That's really with anything. If you believe in something, it's gonna add to it. I mean, you believe in yourself and believed in, hey, I got made the Olympics in the 1500. Now I'm going to shift into a marathon. Obviously, you have to have self belief to be successful as an athlete. Is there any other qualities that you feel are vital for an elite level athlete?
Well, having a great support team is so important, right?
Mm.
So I've basically had one coach from grade 8, and he coached me
Mm.
right through when I retired in 2012, and he's still a huge part of my team. He was actually our coach in Tokyo, our marathon coach too. Um, he's sort of retired from performance coaching now, but is like always a mentor and always available to ride his bike with me if I need someone to meet up with. And then my husband took over writing my program 6 years ago when I moved to marathoning, and we have a really great working relationship in the running world. And obviously we've got our
Well,
personal life, and that's great too.
sure.
But the coaching, it's really helpful for me because we've got such a busy life and we've got the kids, and we can sit down and like, oh, let's map out the training. And he is so invested in helping me be the best it can be on the day, and also like really I feel like when I race well, it's totally a team effort.
I mean, he was an elite level athlete himself. I mean, it's not like he was just like some Joe that kind of did a few things. I mean,
Yeah.
pretty elite, so he can understand kind of like probably the mental side or kind of understand your energy levels and kind of help adjust those training situations probably a little bit better than just most people, right?
Yeah, Graham is a really intuitive coach, and he is also very, very detail oriented, and he just doesn't leave a stone unturned, really. Um, so he's learned a lot about the marathon over the last few years, but he's really kind of dived deep into training and what works and training, just training philosophy. And in the end, we've kind of found a recipe that more or less works for me. So we just tweak it maybe every build, but we really keep like the nuts and bolts the same.
Is there any situation where like as a coach he's coaching you that you get home and you go, hey, no, you know
Yes, occasionally I'm like, I'm just not up for that, or that workout doesn't really excite me. The one thing that I really hate doing, which thankfully he doesn't have me do much anymore because now there's opportunities, but I really hate and always have hate time trials.
Mm.
And so during COVID, we had to set up time trials because there
Oh
weren't race
yeah.
opportunities, and I always underperform. Look, I'm just like, it's like I say I hate them, and then I say I underperform. I wonder if there's a connection, but I just
that
love to race, and so like going to the well in a time trial really doesn't energize me. Let's just say.
Why? I mean, because you're if you've got competitive juices, and you're trying to beat other people, it's kind of hard to do it in a time trial. I mean, it's just kind of, I don't even know how you describe it.
Yeah.
It's not
Some
as fun.
people are really good at it. You see some time trial results that random people will post, especially during COVID. And I think like, how can you do that by yourself or even with a pacer? Because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just like, yeah, like you said, racing against people, and I like the events, and I like the energy that goes along with it. And training is for training, and racing is for racing.
What is your favorite workout?
Mm, well, it really depends. I've come to really love long progression runs within a long run. They're very satisfying to run 20 or 25K, progressing in pace over the course of 35K. Again, my former middle distance track athlete self would just be like dying to hear this, that I'm saying this now. But then at the same time, today I did a workout that I really enjoy. It was 2K. It's basically like a modified Oregon, but it's 2K tempo and then 4x400 on the track, 2K tempo off track, 4x300, 2K tempo off track, 4x200. So breaking down the track part. And I really still love the chance to get on the track and run a little bit faster and feel smooth and relaxed. Even if I can't run as fast as maybe once upon a time, I can still get pretty close with that kind of work.
No, I mean, it's always interesting to hear what individuals' favorite workouts are. I mean, because it varies so much on the personality, and you get I think you get a little bit of an inside look at them, when you kind of find out what their favorite workouts are as opposed to others potentially.
But, my favorite workout 20 years ago was 4x400 with 6 to 8 minutes rest as fast as possible. So it's a little different than a 20K progression run now.
Very different, I'm sure. Very, very different, I'm sure. What, kind of wrapping things up, what would your advice be to the younger you as you were, starting this journey at the collegiate setting, or even just pre-mom ties?
Yeah, I think it sounds cliche, but to trust the process. And I have to go through that almost every build when I start training again. I think, oh, this is so hard. This is so fast. How am I going to be able to do this for 42K? And just like showing up every day, figuring out how to be consistent by being healthy, getting enough rest, and getting good quality food, and managing stress like we talked about before, so that you can continually just make incremental progress towards your goals, instead of like, oh, we need to, nail this 1 or 2 workouts or this one race. And then, again, being able to step away from a race or a career and think like, I did my best. Like I controlled what I could do. I showed up every day. I didn't micro quit. And then you can kind of just accept what the results are if you really believe that you did everything you could and did your best along the way to do your best.
All right,
did your best along the way to do your best. That's so redundant.
Well, you know what though? I said I had one more question. I actually have a second one because as you started talking, I started thinking about it. For encouragement for a mom that is thinking about getting started and doing something that might be a little bit outside their comfort zone, what encouragement would you have for them?
I think it's so important for moms to have something outside of their kids' goal to focus on, and not to feel guilty that you're having some time away that you're carving out for yourself, because that's going to make you a better parent, a better mom. And that's good for your kids to see too. But that time, and I think this is how I got into triathlon, I just needed an hour every day to just be myself and to get some exercise, and to life wasn't revolving around the demanding needs of an infant. 24 hours a day, it was maybe 22 hours a day. And if I got that 2 hours in, 1 or 2 hours most days, then I was like, okay, now I can show up and be a good parent, because I looked after myself too.
That's awesome. That's incredible advice. Malindi Elmore, a multiple-time Olympian from Canada and Saucony athlete. Thank you so much for joining us. Been amazing. I'm excited to watch in Paris. I mean, I watch a marathon regardless, but it gives me a little bit more excitement to watch as well.
Awesome. So, thanks. Well, I'm glad you'll be watching. Hopefully it's not too late. I know it starts early in the morning in Europe, so it's going to be some late night viewing over here in North America.
Late night, early morning, it's all kind
of whatever. It's all the same thing, right?
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. You've been listening to Just a Cup on Believe, Brian Fetzer here, signing off. We thank you for joining. Keep subscribing, keep liking, keep commenting, and keep being blessed. Have a great one.